All right, welcome back to another episode. We are Fredericksburg. We're in the podcast studio. Today we are with John Nicholls. John, thanks for being here. I know we're just jumping right into this.
It's all good, buddy. I appreciate the opportunity. It's great to be here, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, happy to have you. John, I know a little bit about your past. I know that you're auctioning off properties. You kind of do that all the time, left and right.
Yeah, we do, I would say, probably about 100 to 120 properties a year. We do also subcontract ourselves as well as our team out to different wholesale automobile auctions. And but our bread and butter is real estate, whether all types, real estate, commercial, residential, agricultural, industrial. And my mom and dad started our company in 1968 with a totally different business model, and it was all personal property auctions, and then if a piece of real estate would come up, they would sell that. But when I took over day-to-day operations back in 2007, we sort of moved to be more of a specialist. I think we're in a, much like your business, you know, I'm not going to call somebody who might specialize in septic tanks to do what you guys do.
Right.
And so we're in a niche, very much of a niche society now. So we wanted to specialize in that, and that's what we've narrowed it down to, and that's what we're geared to.
So it's all levels of property, and some of these properties include businesses. Is that right?
Yeah, we about 2 weeks ago, we sold an automotive repair shop in Falls Church, Virginia, and we have sold businesses all over the state, as well as Maryland, D.C., West Virginia, Pennsylvania. But it is everything from your typical residential home to vacation properties, commercial properties, industrial, timber ground, farm ground, businesses, whatever the case might be. We've got, I think, about 21 or 22 properties on the schedule now from now till the 1st of June. So it's a busy time.
Right.
Busy time.
I think the standards, everybody hires a realtor, goes through the normal process, the banks, the appraisals. This is a little bit different. I would say this is outside of standard. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, you know, it's a lot of people when they hear, okay, you're a real estate auction company, you do foreclosures, you do tax lien sales, and that I sort of chuckle at that. It's not the case at all. We don't. Very little of our business is distress. We work for people much like yourself. We partner with realtors. We work with attorneys, with estates, whatever the case might be, where people want guerrilla marketing campaign, transparent competitive bidding, really tight contracts that are going to close in 30 to 40 days. A lot of our referral partners are realtors, and there's a lot of people in our company, myself included, that have our salesperson's license and can list if we want to. We just choose to sell in this fashion. If we go on an appointment and we don't think this property is conducive to what we do, we will get permission to refer them to a realtor that we might have a great relationship with, or our broker where our license hangs, if you will. So it is, it's different. In a traditional list situation, you could potentially have a lot of contingencies, or, you know, things that they want to get done before they close on the property. And in our business model, in our sales format, there are no contingencies. 75% of our buyers do get mortgages. So when they come to bid at the auction, whether they're bidding live on site or live online, they just need to know that their financing needs to be in place and ready to go. They cannot bid hoping or wishing or praying that they're going to obtain their financing. So that homework just needs to be done prior to, versus a traditional list. A lot of times it's done after they write the contract. And then, of course, it's as is. There's no contingencies for any types of inspections, walkthrough, appraisals. However, the property is available during the preview time to bring in your builder inspectors, to bring in your appraisers, to bring in whomever you'd like to. It's not like we're selling these things in the dark or under the blanket of mystery or anything along those lines. We feel that comfortable buyers are generous buyers. So I'm not going to buy anything sight unseen. I'm not going to buy a pig in a poke, and I don't expect anybody else to as well. But in the day in which we live, and I think there is enough to go around, I think that there is enough in the traditional list world, there's enough in our world, and the two entities can absolutely coexist. Like I said, a lot of our referral partners are realtors. We do a lot of business. However, it's kind of interesting. Last year, downtown Culpeper, we sold for the owner, for the broker, a real estate office.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, that's come full circle. And people are really just starting to see the power of transparent competitive bidding, competition, and then the results that we are getting. Because first of all, Ray, as you know, and you and I've talked offline, yes, we sell property in this manner, in a competitive bidding manner, but the 99% of our job is a marketing company. So we're marketing, and it's just like your business. You can be the best in the business as you are, but if nobody knows your name, if nobody knows what you do, you're really good at what you do sitting home doing nothing.
Right.
And so our marketing team, our award-winning marketing team, that's what they do 24/7. And they try to make us known so that we at least get a seat at the table to educate folks as far as what we do, because a lot of people don't understand what we do. And I understand that. And it'll never, ever stop. And so we're going to be in a constant educational campaign, but that's okay. That's all right.
Would you say that the bidders that are showing up and they're pre-qualifying with their finances, that these are maybe more intentional, consciously assertive individuals that like to have their affairs in order and be very thorough?
Yeah, I would say yes, because every property that you can go to our website at nicholsauction.com or bidnichols.com, you will see we give them more information than they know what to do with. So if they can get to our website, they're going to be educated. Our deposits are more sizable than a traditional list situation. In a traditional list situation, you tell me, you can put down anywhere from $100 to $1,000 typically on a sale and get it back, if you walk away for whatever reason. And our deposits are a little more hefty to get you a little more skin in the game and a little more difficult to walk away from. And 56th year in business.
Wow.
And I can literally count on two hands the amount of deals that have not closed. So our closing rate is extremely high. Let's face it, right now in this environment, I just read on the National Association of Realtors statistic the other day, it was either 2 out of every 5 or 3 out of every 5 contracts, the buyer's walking away. This is nationwide now, not just our area. And that scares a lot of people.
Could that be for contingencies?
Yes, sir. It could be for contingencies. It could be for financing. It could be for a plethora of things. I mean, you've bought a lot of real estate. Look at all the stuff that you've gone through with your business, with your personal home, inspections, walkthroughs, appraisals, whatever. And that's the thing. They understand when they read our terms, and then when I verbally go over the terms before the event starts, that, hey, there are no contingencies here. The only contingency is that we're going to guarantee you receive a free and clear, marketable, equitable title.
Right.
If for whatever reason we can't produce that, we're going to refund all your money and the deal will be done. But if you buy this place for $500,000 and it only appraises if you need a mortgage, and it only appraises for $300,000, you better have $200,000 in your underwear drawer to bring to the closing table. And so it's nothing, like I said, nothing mysterious, nothing hidden. All the terms are very, very clear and very upfront. And last night we did 3 auctions, 3 successful real estate auctions, and Louisa, Orange, and Southwest Virginia and Victoria, Virginia. And all of them had 33 registered bidders at them, 20 registered bidders at them. They as long as you're truthful with people, and as long as they know what they can expect, and there's no hidden surprises or nothing behind the door, they're going to do business if they want the product.
That's incredible competition, because on your traditional sale in real estate, you've got a ratified contract. Nobody else is submitting. If it's under contract, they're not wasting their time. They're going on, because they may not find out if it fell through or not for weeks.
It just happened to a friend of mine in Florida. He was dealing with his mom's estate, $1 million home down in the Fort Myers area, and got a full price contract after 2 or 3 weeks. Literally on the 11th hour before closing, the guy said, "Nah, I'm not feeling it anymore." Got his deposit back, but it had been under contract, marked under contract on the MLS for a month. Well, he didn't get another showing for another 3 or 4 weeks.
Right.
And I think too, one of the things that, please don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not bashing traditional list real estate. I've got some dear friends that are involved in that, and we work with them every day. We worked with over 288 realtors last year as far as bringing us deals and as far as bringing us buyers for deals. We love our relationship with that. But the thing about it is that you just have to be so, like during COVID, when it was Disney World time for the real estate business, when you're getting 20 and 24 contracts, and heck, I was trying to buy something for my daughter and her husband, and I'm losing my mind waiving inspections, giving them a $40,000 escalation, stuff that you would have never convinced me I would have ever done. But as you remember, there was no volume. What were they doing back then with 24 and 25 contracts? They were having an auction because they'd say, Ray, you're going to have to come up. Your price didn't quite make it. Well, can you tell me what I'm bidding against, for no better term? Well, no, but you got to raise your price. What I'm hearing from buyers is they like the transparency
Right.
of our competitive bidding method.
Right.
And like I said, there's a lot of things about a traditional list situation that people may like over what we do. There's a lot of elderly folks or older folks or maybe just folks that are busy and they don't want to stage their home. They don't want to spend 15, 20, 25, 50,000 painting, taking out wallpaper, pulling up carpet. That's cool. That's our bread and butter. So, my philosophy is if it's not unsafe, your taste may not be somebody else's taste to buy this place. So as soon as you paint everything eggshell, they may want it all snowball white.
Right. I remember a time where it was a buyer's market. There was a lot of inventory, and every buyer was putting in a contract. As soon as the home inspection contingency kicked in, where they got the home inspection report, they're now listing a full page of addendum items. Like, we want the seller to do this and that.
You're going to pay half my closing costs. You're going to pay all my closing costs.
Yeah, and you're going to do all these things that pop up in the home inspection.
Yeah, and you're going to put in a koi pond just because I like
Right.
it. You know what? But there again, supply and demand. Who was in charge? Like you said, it was a buyer's market. They could pick their poison.
Right.
And a lot of them got exactly what they wanted.
Right.
Not so much around here right now.
Now it's totally different from a buyer's perspective. It's flip-flopped. And people have made a lot more money right now just because the inventory's so low.
It is. And you are in the trades and you're well aware of this. We could start building new houses like crazy, and I don't know that we catch up with the population of our area. Now,
Right.
Obviously, for both of our businesses, we're very blessed to be in this environment, unlike a lot of our brothers and sisters in other parts of the country who don't live between the nation's capital and the state capital. I'm not going to say we're recession proof, but we're a whole lot more insulated than a lot of people in the country.
I see these areas grow down here. I'm from Northern Virginia, so when I came down here in the early 2000s, Cosner's Corner wasn't even built.
That's right.
And I just fell in love with the area, fell in love with the people, and it wasn't that crowded. It's gotten a lot different now.
Sure.
What I've seen over the years is everybody just migrates down in an environment like this where interest rates are high, inflation is high. If somebody wants to sell their house because they need to do something else financially, if they want to stay in the same size house with the same size family, they're not going to, get rid of a couple kids.
Sure.
They're going to have to come south, and in order to make up for the interest rate, that's kicked in. And there's people that have got to sell right now with a low interest rate, and move, and they end up having to downsize significantly in order to keep things reasonably within their financial budget.
How many times have I talked to people and they're like, John, I really want to sell, but what am I going to buy?
Right.
It's sort of like the car market. Well, I'd like to sell my car, but I don't want to pay $100,000 for a new pickup truck. And it is so true. And even in our own area, well, I can't afford North Stafford. I'm going to go to King George, or I'm going to go to Caroline.
Right.
Or, I can't afford Northern Spotsylvania, but I can go to Woodford, or I can go to Thornburg, or I can do So we even have a little microcosm inside of our microcosm. They're coming down, and I can't tell you how many times when all the unrest was happening in the nation several years ago, in a lot of the big cities, and there was a lot of violence and things of that nature going on. Our offices down in the southwest part of the state were crushing it because so many people were like, I'm getting out of this asphalt jungle and I am getting somewhere where there's a lot of trees, a lot of grass, and quiet.
Right. Head for the hills.
And I can work from home now. So now this telecommuting has changed the game. So when we have residential properties, let me tell you something. It hurts us if we're too rural and there is no internet. There's no high speed. That's a big thing to consider. And you say, well, how about satellite? Well, look at what Elon Musk wants to charge you for that satellite right now.
Right.
It's not very affordable.
Well, in exchange for living on the side of a mountain,
it's what you got to do.
Yeah.
It's just the cost of doing business, as we
That's
say.
right.
It's the cost of doing business, and they're willing to pay that. They really. Plus, if they're coming from New York, heck, if they're coming from Vienna, if they're coming where you grew up, this stuff down here is for free. You know, you and I were talking offline. We sold a 1,050 square foot house in Vienna, Virginia, about a month ago, built in 1954. That in the county I live in, of Spotsylvania, it might have done on its best day 275, and it did 950. And that is 45 miles north of here. What's the real estate rule? Location, location, location.
I've got I think it's 1,200 square foot, built in 65. No garage, nothing fancy, decent lot in South Stafford. And I think it was 2 years ago appraised, I think as high as 350. And I did a refinance. The rates were so low.
Sure.
You know, but that is, I mean, you're talking triple the cost up there.
Move that to where you grew up and see what it'd bring. Triple.
Right.
You know, and there again, like you said, you grew up close to the Vienna Metro. Well, there's another big thing that makes housing prices go up. So it's, and as you and I have been talking about before, I believe 5 of the top grossing median income counties are in Virginia and Maryland.
Yeah.
Out of the country, 5 out of the top 10.
Out of over 3,100 counties in the country.
And we have
5 of the top 10
in Virginia and Maryland.
And I know a few years ago, Forbes magazine had rated Stafford County as the second richest. Loudoun County is kind of since has been number one in terms of household income and richest.
Unfortunately, a lot of people who make good money will rent their entire life. That's tragic. Unless that's what they want. I mean,
and more
no
prone to do
disrespect.
that now also.
Yeah.
You know, so what's going to happen down the road when people get accustomed to renting just because of the times we're in right now?
Well, look how many, even in our area, look at all the condos, apartments. You know, they're everywhere. They're going up everywhere.
It's as if there's more multifamily units than dwellings that are actually getting built.
And that's an interesting observation because a lot of the larger homes that we're selling, and we're getting ready to do market one in Fredericksburg, in city of Fredericksburg, when you talked about that multi-generational, you know, you're blessed enough to have been able to help your parents and they live on your property and you basically attach them to you. Well, that's what I'm seeing on some of these larger homes. Grandma and granddaddy, mom and dad, and son and daughter and grandchildren, all under the same roof. 6,000-7,000 square feet, no big deal. We all have our own space. We can get away from each other if we get mad at each other.
Yeah.
But this multi-generational thing is a real deal, especially with inflation on older folks potentially with fixed incomes.
And everybody I've talked to about my situation, you know, wanting to get my parents moved on the property and
Sure.
they can just live at peace. Everybody wants to do that, you know, with their family. Not everybody's got the means or the area may not have the properties available. A lot of the houses aren't designed. I mean, they build a lot of houses up in the air. They don't spread them out like they used to.
And you don't want your elderly folks or grandparents or parents walking steps and things of that nature. So to your point, it's tough for them to go up. You know, they need to be on a main level.
It's profitable, I think, for builders
100%
to go up.
is profitable. It's cheaper to go up than go out. Right. But I'm telling you, that multi-generational thing, we're seeing more and more and more of it. And you talk about taking care of your family. I mean, look, to whom much is given, much is required. And it's got to be an extremely satisfying feeling to know, y'all took care of me, I got you. And, you know, the world needs more of that.
Right.
It really does.
When it comes to the real estate market, you know, there's a million videos or reels that you could just scroll through, whether they're real gurus or not,
Sure.
talking about real estate. It's kind of always been out there. I remember seeing the infomercials growing up where you could buy the whole VHS collection.
You're right. I remember.
and it would teach you everything you need to do or know about making money in real estate.
Yeah.
I know that, you know, some of the trillion-dollar companies are trying to buy up a lot of real estate and make more money off of that than they're going to do in the markets. What's your opinion about real estate in terms of somebody being able to make a lot of money or build a wealth or leverage assets?
You know, Ray, I for 14 years, I was one of the lead auctioneers at a collector car auction called Barrett-Jackson. And I know you being a gearhead, you know what that is. And we sold collector cars, classic cars, all over the country. for 14 years. And so in that time, I was surrounded with a lot of high wealth individuals. And one of the things that I used to love to do was go around and find out how they made their money. Well, I've heard everything from started a trash business, nursing homes, talked to a guy who held the patent for certain chips in all the cell towers in the world. But one thing that's consistent across the board, they might have made their money in one way, they parlayed into historic legacy wealth in real estate. No questions asked. So you say, man, housing's high. Well, yes, my dad thought in 1966 his $15,000 house that he's still living in now was high too. But what's it worth now? You know, the place you grew up in, what's it worth now? I had a guy tell me one time, he says, pay your taxes, they'll never be as cheap as they are today. I think the same thing with real estate. We're in a college town. My daughter went to college in Lynchburg, Virginia. Bought her a townhouse her sophomore year, and then she stayed there through her MBA. So in 3 years, I think I made 50% on a townhouse. You know, a nice townhouse, but still, nonetheless, it wasn't like I had her in a Taj Mahal. It was a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, and it was okay. But I just think in our area, like I said, halfway between the nation's capital and the state capital, I just think it's the best investment out there.
Yeah,
I really do.
I've said this a lot. I've definitely shared it with realtors. Stafford County is really the best county to be in right now if you are in small business or you are buying real estate. And I think if you've got the money, if you've got access to the debt that you can, leverage, buy up the real estate.
Totally agree. And congratulations on your involvement with FAR. I know you were a big sponsor of their last event a couple of weeks ago, and that's awesome. And I couldn't agree more. We have an acre right next to the Walmart on Garrisonville Road, and the phone's ringing off the hook because it doesn't exist. And, you and I have talked offline about what's out there and what's not. And I'm telling you, man, if you have the way to do it, you better do it. And I agree with about your evaluation of Stafford County. And kudos to Stafford County because that always couldn't be said in the past.
Right.
And I think they've really come a long way with that. But I was telling you before, we're getting so many requests for estate lots. And there's nothing wrong with subdivisions. That's fine, My first home was in a subdivision. My home now is in a subdivision. But they want some land. They want a little bit somewhere to stretch their legs, just like you have. And some people can do that. Some people can't. But that doesn't mean they don't want to do it. There's a lot of people that just really want that.
I starting out in business, coming from an engineering job and then losing everything and lost my house to foreclosure. I filed bankruptcy, ended up starting a few different businesses, didn't take off. And then I started Nine Hammers. And,
sure.
I've learned a lot trying to grow a company, not knowing what the hell I'm doing. And I've realized there's like a pathway to just about anything that you want to accomplish. There's ways to buy and resell. There's ways to live with friends and family. There's ways to rent out basements or a number of things that you could then build up and leverage. Even down to no longer buying Starbucks and then taking the money. It does accumulate over the course of a year and then going on a vacation, or using that to, if people were to, buy certain stocks or buy Bitcoin or, things that they thought would go up.
Sure.
There's ways there's a pathway to get there. And I heard this thing, or I guess I watched this video about the 3 different kind of monetary or wealth levels. And you've got, individuals that are working for a company in like a W-2 kind of status. And then there's constraints there. There's limitations. There's opportunity for sure.
Sure.
The first one to say as a business owner, if somebody, like I've had somebody come as an assistant and then they ended up being an executive for my company.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So it doesn't take anything more than what you already have and build upon that to get somewhere you've never been before. But there's, you can try to get promotions. There's ways you can work up and then end up leveraging that. I'm a big fan of, people owning LLCs or, even if it's a small kind of business, there's ways in which you can write stuff off, and it's a tax game, and it's all legal. People say, people don't pay their tax. No, they're leveraging the tax
100%.
code. But then you get into the businesses, the independents, 1099s, real estate agents fall in that category. You've got a lot of tax write-offs that you can do, but to me, I can tell you, in my experience, it's so much easier to get credit from banks as a business than it is personally.
Couldn't agree more.
If you've built up a couple years in a business, if you've got receivables, anything like that, then you can go and present that and get funding.
Yep.
You then, you're not paying taxes on the funding because it's a loan. Then go out and any money that you put into acquiring an asset, like that's an expense. It gets written off. It lowers your AGI, your adjustable
gross income.
Gross income.
And totally legal.
Yeah. And so then the next step up is, you own assets, and then you're making all your money off the assets. And there's ways in which you can do that and not pay the taxes, because whether it's a 1031 exchange, or if you have some gain out of one LLC, you're investing it into another LLC, you're expensing that off. So by the time everything funnels down to you, whether it's through a C Corp, you're avoiding having to pay taxes on what you're generating. You're generating cash, you're then expensing that off to then go get other assets. And if the assets keep growing up, you've got the gains that aren't realized. So if they're not realized, you're not paying the taxes on it. I don't know if that's going to change down the road. I know it's always been a topic of conversation on realized gains. I think Elon Musk, didn't he leverage his stock to go buy Twitter?
Yes, he did.
So I can see the argument where it's realized, but then it's also not realized because it's still a debt leverage.
No, yeah, I mean, really, in all fairness, people had the means and really understood that if you buy a rental home and your mortgage is $1,000 a month and your rent's $1,500 a month, and you're putting that extra $500 in that rental account for air conditioners, roofs, etc., and that person is going to sit there and pay your mortgage, and at the end of that time you're going to have a paid off asset that you did not pay anything for, somebody else paid it. I mean, it's not rocket science.
No.
You just got to have the capital or the experience, and I mean business experience, in order to get a loan to do something like that. And it's out there for the taking. I just had lunch with a guy whose mom and dad 60 years ago came to this country from Russia with $12 in their pocket and 3 children under the age of 5. He was one of them, and landed in downtown New York City with $12 in their pocket. And he listened, he surrounded himself with the right people, he worked his butt off. And, when he passed, he had millions and millions of dollars worth of real estate in New York City that he had bought and paid for with cash. But it's a lot of 18 and 19-hour days. And, I mean, I don't have to tell you,
it's tough.
There's nothing at Nine Hammers you're going to ask any of your people to do that you either have not done or cannot do and will do if it is necessary. And right. I think as a leader, I think as the quote-unquote boss, that's critical. I mean, they got to know, hey, this guy's just not looking at this on YouTube. He's really put on shingles before in his life. He has put on a deck. He has put in windows. He's put in HVAC, whatever. Yeah, I have. And I happen to know that you're doing it, and you're either doing a good job or you're not doing a good job, and you're not going to be able to, pull the wool over my eyes. But I think that's critical. I think that's called earning respect, not demanding respect,
It's so tough, I think, for individuals to push themselves past those walls that they put up, those limitations where
we like comfort. We don't like getting out of our comfort zone, and there's no advancement within our comfort zone.
No, I call complacency a place that
100%.
Yeah.
It's very like a nice warm bed, and it's easy to get into, it's hard to get out of, and it's very, very, very true.
I'm going to ask you for your take on this. Sometimes I get asked from younger individuals, what do you do? How do you make money?
Sure.
And there's my way is just one of millions of different ways.
Yep.
I think for the younger generation, anyone in their 20s, my thought would be get a job that you could leverage that paycheck. Go get a property that you could rent out. Live in there, whatever the obligation is, I think, which is going to be to the mortgage company, their
Sure.
obligation, either 6 months or a year. And then rent out rooms or move back in with friends or family and rent the whole thing out.
Yep.
And then generate that positive cash flow, whatever it is.
Yep.
And then you just keep recycling that every couple of years. By the time, let's say you're 30, you could end up with several properties.
And that generation has to fight the instant gratification issue. They want what you have now. They didn't see you back in your early 20s. They didn't see you in your early 30s. They don't know how challenging it was, and you worked yourself out of a jam. What do you mean I can't have an 80-inch TV when I'm 21 like my parents? It breaks my heart when I see people sacrificing the permanent on the altar of the immediate. And so instant gratification is going to keep a lot of people from that. Look, man, as long as I got my cell phone, as long as I got my streaming services, as long as I've got a good pair of tennis shoes or shirts or what, I'm good. Man, I'm like you. You're so passionate about wanting them to see the big picture. Hey, bro, if you just stop putting $6 a day in Starbucks, that's $30 a week, Monday through Friday, and that's $30 times 50. Do the math. Yeah, that's $1,500 cash money that you could go to Virginia Beach for a week.
Right.
Maybe not. I haven't been to Virginia Beach in a while. Maybe it's more than that.
We've got inflation, but I remember when you could probably get a cruise, a week or an 8-day cruise.
Yeah, go to Carnival.
$500, $600, $700.
Yep. And like you are such a mentor to so many people in this area, and so many people have been a mentor to you, which is why you're successful as you are, because you're a good listener. But I really like trying to help people in the same way that I was helped, and had the blessing of having a great mom and dad who definitely understood business and who definitely understood compound interest and savings. And, back when interest rates were 16, 17%, man, it was horrible if you wanted to borrow, but my mom loved that for CDs, at that time. And they really got it. They understood how to budget. They taught me, and at that time, my future wife, before we got married, how to budget, how they sat down and helped us with a budget. Because, and you've done this with your business and you do it personally, sometimes we get in the jam where there's just too much fat. There's a lot of waste. There's a lot of reoccurring monthly bills that we're like, what's that for?
Right. And now in the age of subscriptions,
and they love that
everywhere.
And guess what? You're automatically renewed. We're not even going to let you know about it. We're just going to automatically renew you.
Right.
And so for us, and we may now be in a situation where we hire people to look after that for us, or we get down into the dirt and do it ourselves. We have to keep the ball on ourselves too, because it adds up. It could be another salary. We could bring on another person each by some of the money we're just not focusing on or not realizing where it's going.
I tell people pretty much got my affairs in order, but there's so many things, like in so many ways, that I could do so much better than I'm doing right now.
Well, you're content, but you're not satisfied.
Right. Well, I'm still wasteful. I mean,
We all are, to a certain extent.
I have the means to be wasteful to a degree. I wish I was more proactive about thinking about the future than I am, and I do think about the future. I do try to plan and think about investments properly. But there's so much available, I think, for everybody to think, well, we could do this differently, and we could have a better outcome not only for ourselves but everybody around us.
We talk about this in our company all the time when we're looking to expand and have a footprint here and a footprint there. And we come back to it all the time. There is so much business within a 30-mile radius of where we are, but sometimes we're too busy tripping over dollars to pick up pennies, and we need to focus on the 30 to 40-mile radius of where our butt's at. And, bigger's not always better. We just have to do, and I'm speaking we as a collective unit of business people, we're very blessed to live where we live, to have the hometown feel of Fredericksburg, but yet be so close to quite a bit of power,
right,
quite a bit of influence, quite a bit of wealth. And that doesn't, because I travel quite a bit and with my job, and that doesn't go unnoticed with me. I'm just like, man, I'm here because I was born here. But what if I was born, somewhere else? What if I was born in a more impoverished environment or something like that? Now, granted, it has its good things and bad things as far as real estate prices and things of that nature. But, for the most part, we're very, very blessed to live in the area we live in. It's getting bigger and bigger it's getting bigger and bigger as far as population. And maybe it's because I was born and raised here, but it'll always have a hometown feel to me. I know we have people yelling and screaming about traffic, and I know traffic, it's tough. I mean, 17, 610, Route 1, Route 3 during certain hours, I get that. But there again, we were a good, well-kept secret for a long time, but now people know what we know and they want to be here.
Right.
And so it's blessings and cursings, and it'll always be home to me. I went away to South Carolina for 6 years for college and grad school, and I love South Carolina, but I couldn't wait to get back here. I really couldn't. And my mom and dad had nothing. I mean, nothing. And the way this community embraced them in the late 60s, early 70s, 80s, 90s, all the way up to the present, and for no better word, allowed them to build a business and allowed them to feed their family and put a roof over our head and clothes on our back. They worked awful hard, but the people also blessed us in ways we can't ever repay. I mean, they embraced small business. They could have gone out of the area to get the services that we provided. And that's another thing, and I know you'd like to do this as well. I was in a place the other day, and they said, and I know I could have ordered these things online, but you want people in our area to not think the grass is always greener and support small business. And that's what we try to do in our company is, I could order it off of the internet and get it from one other state, but I can also drive a few miles across town and support the people that support me. I just think that's critical. I really, really do.
One of the things I like about the We Are Fredericksburg brand is the community aspect and the people.
Nothing like it.
Yeah, I think a lot of businesses lose that family value, belief and value system. Mm-hmm. And so this is nice where you're doing something and you get a level of engagement, but mm-hmm. that comes with that engagement. And typical business, you don't always see that in transactions.
Well, whether it's associations that you're involved in or I'm involved in or whatever the case might be, the old adage is that people do business with people they like and trust.
That's for sure.
And that's just a fact. And I mean, the gentleman that takes care of my yard or the lady that cleans our house, I don't want them to know this, but they could pretty much charge me whatever they want because I trust them. I just like them. And so therefore, I'm going to do business with them. Could I find it more affordable or cheaper elsewhere? Yeah, probably so, but I'm not looking. They've earned my trust. And there's a lot of people in this area who are in the same position as you and I are in, but have been there even longer. They started businesses here multi generations ago and can say the same exact thing. I really wish that a lot of the community would rally around these local businesses and keep your money here where we all can benefit from it, where we can support each other. I just think it's critical to our health and our survival. Sometimes you got to step out of the area if there's an issue that we just can't provide or something like that, or a trade or whatever the case is. But for the most part, we can get you covered in Fredericksburg and all the surrounding counties.
I couldn't agree more, and I think it's the greatest way to really preserve what we have.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't get lost.
Mm-hmm.
John, you're extremely well respected. You're well known, certainly in the real estate community. I met a customer. I actually went on an appointment. I was telling her about We Are Fredericksburg and the podcasting, and I was like, I'm having this guy on tomorrow, and John Nicholls. She's like, I know John. He goes to my church.
Oh.
And, so it's just a really great experience. So I know so many people know you in this area, but I don't know if there's that much out there. I know you're super humble about some of the things. Like when your parents got into this business, mm-hmm. what was it that was going on? What caused them to get into auction? My
dad was working 4 jobs in 1968. He was working for a nursery company. He was working for a tire company, a supermarket. And on Thursdays, he was working part-time at what used to be the old Fredericksburg Auto Auction, which is now the motorcycle dealership at 4 Mile Fort. He fell in love with just the art of that type of sale. And my mom was working for, at that time, it was called VEPCO. Now it's Dominion Resources. I think she was making about a whopping $100, $125 a week. And he said, I'm quitting my job, so I'm going to learn how to do this. I was 2 years old, so I don't know how that fight went, but I'm sure it was pretty big. My dad is the most passionate person about small business, about business owners, about taking care of your business as anybody that I know. And he is in his early 80s and is at every one of our events. Himself personally conducts 3 to 4 different auctions a week. He has not missed a beat. He wanted to be in this form of sale. He liked the art of the deal. He liked the speed. He liked the sexiness of it. He just loved it. And that, as I told you, started out in a personal property aspect, and they were selling antiques, and then it morphed into, and we would sell real estate as it was convenient or as it made sense. And then as it morphed and morphed and morphed and more things started going online only or whatever the case is. But the biggest thing was it was just so difficult to find the type of labor that we needed, and costs just got pretty expensive. So when we were feeling led to do this, and we just started specializing in real estate in the late 2000s, and it's being a niche environment. To say that you are a specialist at something has really, really worked out well for us. I just have a difficult time thinking if Ray wants me to sell his $1 million property, that he wants to see that on my website, and underneath of it is going to be, ball jars and Beanie Babies and wicker baskets. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but typically you're not going to want those two things to coincide as far as who your target market is you're looking for. I just saw a need. I saw the future. There again, I borrowed a lot of brain. I listened more. I tried to listen more than I talked. I did a lot of reading. I went to a lot of different seminars, conventions, and things of that nature, and saw that, hey, you know what? You've got an amazing foundation. Mom and dad have created an amazing name. They've done business right. People trust them. I mean, my undergrad was in child psychology, and I loved it, but I don't know that I could sit behind a desk and in the middle of grad school, in the middle of getting my master's, it just hit me. I'm like, I don't want anything to do with the microphone, but I think the marketing aspect, I could help take this business to another level, and had never touched a microphone because it's just such a small part of what we do anyway. I asked my dad if I could come on board, and he hadn't been able to get rid of me since 1990. So it's been a good ride.
When was the first auction that you ran as the auctioneer?
Yeah, I think I went to auction school May of 90.
When I think of auction school, it's not a bunch of people sitting in a class talking really fast, is it?
That's a part of it. It's a 10-day deal most of the time. It teaches you just about enough to make you dangerous.
Okay.
As you well know, you don't learn anything till you get on the street.
That's right.
Till you get on the street. But you had to do that in order to be licensed in the state and the Commonwealth of Virginia. So I think I went to auction. I graduated my master's in May. I went to auction school in June. I got married in July. And I think my first auction that I ever actually was the auctioneer was 1 week after auction school in Colonial Beach, Virginia in June of 90. Yeah, and I was petrified. I mean, absolutely petrified, because I like to refer to myself as an extroverted introvert. I can turn it on if I have to, but most of the time I'm comfortable just sitting down and being by myself. I don't want to invade anybody's personal space if they don't want me. And it was a stretch for me. It really was.
How did you make it to Barrett-Jackson?
So that's a great question. In 2003, I was fortunate enough to win the World Automobile Auctioneers Championship in Nashville, Tennessee. And that was in April of 03. And in the summer of 03, I get a call from Barrett-Jackson and said, hey, we're looking to take our Scottsdale, Arizona auction from 3 days to 6 days. And we're growing. Come to Palm Beach at the auction we're going to do in Palm Beach here shortly for an audition. And so I flew down. The rest is history. I mean, I just got really, really fortunate and surrounded myself with a lot of great people. Those 14 years taught me a lot about business, taught me a lot about the art of the deal. We were fortunate enough to sell the original Batmobile for $4.6 million, which is amazing. It was a 1959 Plymouth Fury that they retrofitted. And that was the Bruce Wayne original Batmobile. Yeah,
I'm just thinking of all the things that have gone across Barrett-Jackson. I haven't seen every show, obviously.
Yeah, we sold Carroll Shelby's Super Snake. There was only one of three in existence. We sold that for $5.5 million. We sold the GM Future Liner. There were a handful of those available. We did that. We've sold the original Beverly Hillbillies Mobile, the Monkeys Mobile. Those are the ones that people recognize, but we've sold a lot of $500,000 and $1 million Hemi Cuda convertibles too. Just a lot of classic cars.
Right.
And I mean, I know people ask me all the time, do you have a collector car? And I'm like, no, I guess I was just around them too much. Not that I have anything against them, because I love automobiles. I love everything about it. It's just that I don't need one more thing to take care of at this time. And if you don't drive those puppies enough, they have a tendency to cost you money. But it was the people that I work with, the things that I learned, the business men and women that I was able to absorb. One of the best, coolest things is I was able to, and still to this day, have a really good relationship with Mr. Rick Hendrick, who's a NASCAR owner. And he has 4 teams in NASCAR, and he's extremely successful. And he and I talk on a pretty regular basis still. And I asked him one day, I said, Mr. H, I said, if you could give a silver bullet to a young guy like me in business, what would it be? And he thought a little bit and he said, John, everybody wants to follow the successful people and do what they do. He said, I go to the successful people and find out what wasn't successful and avoid it. I'll learn from their mistakes. He said, I think I can be successful. He said, but tell me about your failures. Tell me about your challenging times. And then I try to not do that. And I just thought that is so rich. That's so deep. And it's so the antithesis of what we typically do. Hey, Ray's successful, I'm going to be like Ray. Versus, hey, Ray, everybody can see you're successful. We can try to emulate that. Tell me about what got you to this point mentally. Tell me about those hard times. Tell me about what you learned, because we learn on the mountaintops, but we learn a lot in the valleys too. That kind of perspective you can't put a dollar figure on.
Right.
You really can't. When you're talking to somebody like that.
Success is sitting on a mountain full of failures.
Boom. Well said.
Yeah, that's interesting. Wow, what a adventure that must have been.
Yeah, it was a great 14 years. Our company got to the point to where I needed to be home more. I needed to be around the business more, I should say. I have an amazing team. I'm a big believer that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I never have that problem because everybody in the room is always smarter than me, and that's the way I want it. I think weak leaders are intimidated by people who are smarter or more talented than them, and I just think that's the craziest thing ever. Get people in there that think different than you. Get people in there that are better than you. I mean, our marketing team, I can't do what they do. I don't want to do what they do. We have an SOP in case somebody gets hit by a bus or something like that, but the fact of the matter is, they've got to be smarter than me, and then let me be smart enough to let them do their job and stop, don't micromanage them. But I just saw the growth coming in our business. I saw what we could be doing if I was here more. And obviously Barrett had travel involved with it. And then when you are seen on TV or you are viewed as an expert in the collector automobile world, well, then that parlays into, hey, will you come do this auction for me? Will you come do that auction for me? And then I started selling thoroughbred racehorses off of it and things. I'm like, you know what? I've got a child who did not ask to be born, and she needs me, and she doesn't need to be dad not being there for her dance recitals and her field hockey games and this, that, and the other. And it was great, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. But it had its season, and now we're gonna do something else. And as you well know, traveling's sexy for just about a week, but until you find out that I don't care if you're staying at the Waldorf Astoria or the Ritz, that it's not your home bed, and then air travel just is a full-time job anymore. Yeah. So I wouldn't trade it for the world. It taught me so many lessons. It gave me so many invaluable relationships that I know how blessed and how fortunate I was. But everything has its season.
Right.
Everything has its season.
Well, you got a good gig now. You're here with family, and you're in a great area.
And talking to you, and get to sleep in my own bed tonight.
Yeah.
And we were blessed. 14 months ago, we had our first grandchild, and my daughter and her husband. And so my wife and I have been enjoying that phase of our life. And I don't feel old enough to be a grandfather, but I sure am glad she's here, because it opened up you think you love your kids, and we both do, but man, you wait till when that first grandbaby hits the ground. It just opens up an area of love that you didn't know existed. And then my daughter's looking at me and go, well, you didn't used to do that for me, and you didn't used to spend that on me. And I'm like, well, that's because grandchildren should come first, kids should come second. And yeah, when they crawl up in your lap, and it's pretty much open wallet, it's whatever they want. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's you lose your family, you lose it all. And that's one of the things that my dad instilled in me. My mom and dad were married almost 52 years before she passed, and I just saw true unconditional love played out in front of me. So I often tell my wife, if I screw up, it's not because I didn't have a good example. I certainly did, and certainly do.
I've been fortunate as well.
Yes, you have.
I'm not there yet as a granddad.
In time.
It's coming.
It's in time.
And I'll spoil, and then I'll return before the night's over.
That's the way to do it, buddy. That's the way to do it.
Well, John, I'm going to want to have a lot more talks with you.
I hope so. I hope so. This is awesome.
As I'm trying to learn more, because compared to what's out there, I really don't know anything. But I want to do more in real estate. I want to take advantage of this area and create more means to do more good things.
Well, with your means too, you're going to be able to create opportunity for more people. If you have commercial space or industrial space, what's that doing? That's providing a spot for somebody that needs a spot to service this community with their small business. So it goes back to your roots. You needed that break at one time.
I did, and I was thinking about this. I was driving earlier this week, and I was just thinking, I wish I could just create 1 million jobs. Yeah. I love creating jobs.
I understand.
And when we get done here, I've got a meeting, but then after that, I've got an interview, for one of the positions that I've just listed. Mm-hmm. I love sharing the adventure of business, and mm-hmm. I think business should be fun. It's about growth, but it should be fun, and I think we can make it exciting. Mm-hmm. And then I think we can share that. And not everybody's going to, chime in with that. But I think if you look for people that want to be part of the mission, help build the ship that's going to sail the seas and go on an adventure.
Man, there's 8 billion people in this world. And if a couple of them aren't going to fit, there's plenty more.
Right. Wish them well.
That will fit. And Godspeed. We're still going to be friends. It just wasn't a good match. And, if people know you the way I know you, they're going to want to work for you because to a fault, you're going to put their needs before your own. And sometimes that burns us. Sometimes we get our feelings hurt and we learn from that and we lick our wounds and we move on. You don't expect, and I don't expect anything from them that we don't expect from ourselves. And that is good attitude, good effort, and be kind. Look, man, you give me good attitude, good effort, and be kind.
I'm there for you.
Me and we're gonna get along just fine. Right. Because that's the 3 things you can control every time you walk out the door.
I mentioned this to a buddy of mine yesterday. I can't not be me. I can't not be me.
You're the only me there is.
So I'm going to work in one capacity, and if that just doesn't vibe well with somebody, then I just can't do that.
It's all good.
Friends, work, professional, organizations, get together. It doesn't matter. If I'm going to be around somebody, I've got to be able to be me, or else I have to take my energy elsewhere. I can't not be me.
Take it a step further. You and I talked about how we like our homes and how we want our homes to be havens. If you can't be you in your home, you're not in a home. You're in a prison. Right. You're in a cage. We're trying to create lives that we do not need to take a vacation from, if you will. And so I think anybody that knows you is going to say, hey, you know what? Love him, loathe him, or like him. He's genuine and he's real. And what you see is what you get. Look, man, I may not be the exact same, but at least I know you're going to be consistent. At least I know what I see is what I get. If you have an issue with me, you're going to come talk to me. You're not going to talk behind my back about me. We're going to get this thing out in the open. We're going to have open communication. Show me what you are. I'll show you what I am. And somehow or another, we'll work together and we'll come to, I think so much of it is just passion, man. I don't know that you can teach passion. I don't know. I'm still up in the air about that. And that's frustrating sometimes.
I think the challenge is getting rid of the distractions so that you can see it and feel it.
I just want people to be passionate as I am. I want people to be as passionate as my dad is. And I don't know, the jury's still out. I don't know if you can teach it or not.
I have this thing, I think the 3 most important things in life, regardless of who you are, what country you live in, mm-hmm. whether you're connected with electricity or, you're living in the rainforest.
Sure.
It's love, meaning, fulfillment.
Love, meaning, and fulfillment. I've heard you say that many times.
There's nothing greater than that, and I think everybody wants it.
And we were made that way.
Yeah, and I think, for me, what I try to do is I try to live my life going down this road or going down this path of love, meaning, fulfillment. And, sometimes I might catch myself getting on and off ramp.
Of course, we all do.
Get back on.
Sure.
Sometimes there's other things that come on, and it becomes a distraction mm-hmm. from that connection to love, meaning, fulfillment. So I think maybe the connection to passion is the connection to, regrouping with what really matters to you and everybody else's love, meaning, fulfillment.
And there's, in the world in which we live in, it is a lot of noise. There's a lot of distractions. And I think you're exactly right. I think that's why, one of my favorite verses is, be still. Sometimes we just need to be still. Quiet is not really in our vocabulary. You and I were talking before as we were here on property. This is, where you like to come and think and just chill. And we're around noise. We're around problems. We're around challenges. We're around opportunities. I just need a place where I can breathe.
Right. Be at peace.
Just chill. No phones. No, just chill. And that is so rare in the day in which we live. And I don't care if you live in the middle of a big city and you got to go in a closet, but sometimes you just have to be still. Stop. I read a quote the other. I'm a big quote person, as you know, and one of the quotes I read: if you do not take the time for your health, you will have to take the time for your illness. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Because it's not all being stupid and jumping off roofs. It's mental. It's your mental well-being, not just your physical well-being. It's your mental well-being too. You got to be in a good headspace, you know. And I'm sure you can tell when your employees walk in some days, you're like, I don't know what's going on, but they're not right.
And we all go through it.
Absolutely. It's called life.
I know everybody, no matter who you are, is going to experience the same kind of feelings,
Sure.
the same kind of thoughts. Some people stay there a lot longer than others.
And it's tough. We've all been in those black holes. It can be challenging. But I have found in life, and I think this is pretty much universal, we do what we want to do. I'm not discounting chemical imbalance. I'm not discounting anything like that. Sometimes it is physically impossible for people to get out of that, and they need extra help. Not discounting that at all. I'm firmly a big proponent of mental health. But sometimes we just can't get out of our own way. And I'm like, guys, the sun's going to come up tomorrow. I promise you. Sometimes you just need to sleep on it. But sometimes you just need to be still and think this thing through before you make any rash decisions or anything like that. And I know, you and I back in our younger days, we would, have more of a tendency to fly off the handle. But hopefully as we've gotten older, grayer, and
Wait till life beats you up a little bit.
a little more mature. And that's good. That means we're growing up.
Yeah. John, you're a man I greatly admire.
Thank you, my friend.
I
Likewise.
appreciate you coming today and sharing words of wisdom, giving us a little bit of insight into your business. How do people find you?
They can go to our website, which is nicholsauction.com. They can go to bidnichols.com, same site. That pretty much tells you everything about us. We would love to continue to be people's trusted advisor in this area, whether it's for themselves or their family, friends, or loved ones. And God willing, we've been here 56 years, and we're not planning on going anywhere anytime soon if they'll keep us around. And we just, I appreciate you, Ray, and the platform that you have, you've jumped on with We Are Fredericksburg. And I just love looking at your stuff on social media. You're an asset to this community. You not only are a good businessman, a great businessman, you've provided a lot of opportunities for a lot of people, but you pour yourself back into the community. And people aren't stupid. They know who's fake and who's not, and you're definitely the real deal. I appreciate you having me on. I hope I get asked back again, that ratings don't tank too much. But I appreciate the opportunity, brother. I really do.
Great. John, thanks again.
Thank you, sir.